Currency Traders. This is Rob. I'm joined by Ankit, and this is the Currency Room. And here we are, another Friday, another week in the bag. Let's see what happened this week. In this session, we're going to be talking about what happened last week. We're going to take a look at the news. We had the U.S. employment report, definitely big news on Friday. We're going to take a look at all of the currencies and all of the markets, score them from a +3 to a -3, and then we're going to take the strongest, we're going to pair it up against the weakest, and we're going to be looking at the setups this week that look the best.
Disclaimer. This video was created for professional Forex and crypto traders. Maverick Currencies is a proprietary trading firm that employs professional traders around the world. Our traders trade firm capital and keep 70 to 80% of profits they generate. All trades and analysis in this video are for professional traders only. If you are interested in becoming a professional Forex and currency trader for Maverick, click the apply button in the video description. Let's get ready for next week.
We saw new all-time highs in equities for both the SPY and for the NASDAQ. All of this happened with, again, underlying strength. The same thing that happened 2 weeks ago. We got a pullback early in the week, and then we got a run on Thursday. And Friday this week was a little disappointing. We actually ran in the morning, and then we fell back and gave some of it back. But a lot of things have been happening under the surface, and we're going to be talking about those in this session. We saw the US dollar drop substantially, and that pulled down some bond yields with it. Bond yields went all the way down to 4.05. I think we closed out around 4.08. This is all very, very bullish stuff for risk assets. And speaking of risk assets, we saw cryptos continue to move higher, but this week was not uniform. Over the last couple of weeks, everything's been going up. Like, you could have bought any of the coins and you would have been fine. This week, you had to be in the right stuff, and the right stuff was quality. Bitcoin and Ethereum were the right things, and Bitcoin traded above 70,000 on Friday before falling back to close below it. Let's take a look at the economic news last week. We had our first central bank I want to talk about. We had the Bank of Canada. They kept rates at 5% as expected, and they were a little bit more dovish, and we saw the Canadian dollar fall this week. Our second central bank we heard from was the ECB, and they were definitely more dovish than the market expected. The market is now expecting a June rate cut from the ECB based off of this press conference. Last week, Euro was my favorite long, and it was good for the first day and a half, and then it fizzled the rest of the week and did not like this news. So for me, that Euro trade that I was looking for, I took it earlier in the week, but it just fizzled out by the end of the week. Let's take a look at the employment reports. First off, let's take a look at the Canadian employment report. Better than expected, much better than expected, but it did not help the CAD whatsoever. I think they're really looking what the Bank of Canada said more on Wednesday than this one report that's stronger than expected. And then the U.S. jobs report, it was definitely a mixed bag. The headline number of jobs created, 275,000, was above expectations. However, everything else was worse. Wages were 1.1% less, and then the unemployment rate went higher. Now, this typically happens when more people come into the labor force. So more people came into the labor force than were hired. That's why you got a rise in the unemployment rate. But this, again, was a mixed number. Strong job creation, but the inflation component of this number, wages, and the labor pool actually were more dovish. So the dollar initially lost ground, and then it rallied back up, and then it kind of faded away at the end. Overall, the dollar was flat on this news, but definitely down for the week, which we will see in the charts. All right, let's take a look at last week and take a look at some of the numbers. Now look, the market isn't quite closed yet, so this S&P number could be plus or minus whatever, but basically a flat week. Flat week in equities. We'll take a look at the chart here in a second. The world index did much better, up 0.2%. Crypto, and we're going to take a look at crypto. This is the crypto basket. This is all of them put together. Boy, it was wild. Bitcoin, Ethereum soared, and the rest of the coins fell. So this does not tell the whole story here. We'll look inside on the story. We are going to be talking about gold here. Gold has made a major breakout, up 4.4%. That is a monster move in gold. That you don't see that kind of move maybe once or twice in a year. This is a big move in gold to the upside. I've got a multi-year chart I want to show you in gold to show you what's happening. But let's focus on the SPX first. As I said earlier, we had some weakness early in the week. Sure enough, we had that pullback, the same thing we got last week. And then we got the rally on Thursday. That's exactly what we got here. But Friday's candle's a little different. This is last Friday's candle. Again, very, very bullish. This is this Friday's candle. Not so bullish. Ultimately, I was really looking at possibly seeing a breakout from this little base area that we have, and we failed. We failed on that breakout, and we had good news to push us higher, and it didn't go higher. One of the things we focus on at Maverick here, and we call it sentiment. I don't know if that's the right term, but this is what we call it. When something doesn't go up when there's really good news, it tells you that it's tired, that it's all priced in already. We saw this good news hit the market, and we could not break out and run on Friday. So that's telling me that next week we could see a little bit more softness like we've seen this week on the first couple of days of the week. Ankit, what do you think about this price action on Friday in the equities?
Hey, Rob, I definitely must say that today's price action got me a little concerned because, again, we are seeing every dip is getting bought out in the market. So as I saw the markets just rally after the U.S. jobs report, market opened up, and then suddenly we saw a shift. We saw a shift where things started to pull back. And I think this is where we could be at a risk of sort of taking the profits. And again, all the big flyers have gained so much. And I think we get to the point where we probably see more selling coming in versus buyers coming in. So I think this price action today kind of leads me next week to be on the guard here. If I am the bull, I'm really watching next week because if we break, let's say, today's lows, I think that could trigger some of the pullback down. And again, remember that pullbacks are just a normal sort of correction price action. Again, nothing is changing on the trend. But where we are, we could get some correction here. And I think today's price action is a lot different than what we've seen in the last few weeks, and it's on a Friday. The buyers were not able to hold on to the gain. So I'm more on the guard going next week. I think we could see some pullback, for the next maybe a week or two.
And let me throw up the chart on NVIDIA because NVIDIA has been the poster child for this bull market run, and it was running up 4%. It was up 4% on Friday, and it got completely, again, talk about a huge reversal. And it closed down like 5% for the day. I mean, just think about that reversal. So this is what really, I think Ankit is talking about, is that stocks like this that have had this big run, they got hit on Friday. And if they got hit, that means people are finally getting into some profit taking, and that could continue into next week. So I completely agree with you, Ankit, that we could see some weakness at the start of the week. Let's take a look at the Forex market. The yen was the outperformer. Now, for me, my opinion, again, the yen shouldn't theoretically have been a strong performer this week, but we have seen a huge negative divergence with the dollar. I think the reason the yen was up is just because the dollar is down. Ankit, what do you think about that premise? I mean, look, the percentages are about the exact same amount.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think you have a valid point there. I was also doing some digging on this because, again, the yen has been strong pretty much for the whole most part of the week. And, there's definitely some, growing bets that the Bank of Japan is going to hike as early as this month. So we have seen this play out over and over where the prices start to move ahead of something. And Bank of Japan's, rate statement is up in 2 weeks. So we are seeing that trade coming out. Are they going to change? Are they going to raise? Are they going to change the policy? Who knows? But we are seeing a bit of a speculative trade here. And I think that's what's really at play here. When the money comes out of, when the money goes to the yen, and then we have a carry trade against the dollar, and we see the opposite. So we'll find out in 2 weeks when the Bank of Japan comes out, and are they really ready to make that change? But I was reading up on this and said, that's what I found, that there's actually growing bets on for Bank of Japan to make some changes to their policy.
I think this is the most interesting Forex pair to trade for the next 2 weeks going into that meeting. I think we're going to continue to see big negative divergences between these two. The other currency we liked short was the Swiss franc, and it was weak. It was weak, not as weak as the dollar, but it was weak. As I said earlier, my favorite currency last week was the euro, and it fizzled. After the first day or two that was strong, it absolutely fizzled, and I think that ECB statement kind of killed it. So I'm really not looking at euro anymore, but we talked about this pound. We'll take a look at this chart. This pound has been basing for months. Here we've got to move higher. I think the pound is going to move into my top spot. And look, Aussie, Kiwi are a mess. Aussie was definitely stronger than Kiwi and has been for the last week or two, but none of them are really going anywhere. The CAD is tagging along with the dollar. We saw some good weakness in the CAD. That's also a currency that I think could be sold short. Look at the divergence here in crypto. I liked Ethereum last week. I said that's my favorite coin for the week, and it was a nice trade, up 12% for the week. But look, you had to be in the right stuff. We're going to take a look at a chart on all the coins, all lumped together. You're going to see that this base has been messy. The base we had about 3 or 4 weeks ago was clean and perfect. So I think the trading is about to get a lot more difficult in the land of crypto, and we'll take a look at that chart. All right, we already took a look at the S&P. The first thing I want to do, S&P again, still at a +3. I agree with Ankit. There's likely to be a pullback in the first part of the week. Here is this longer-term chart I was talking about in gold. These are all-time highs here on gold. A huge breakout. Now, gold and the dollar are negatively correlated. If gold goes higher, typically the dollar goes lower. If the dollar goes higher, typically gold goes lower. This is a bearish sign for dollar. So we'll take a look at the dollar chart, and we'll see that we are starting to see more negative signs on dollar than we have lately. Gold, major breakout to the upside. Next up to the cryptos. I want everyone to take a look at how perfect this base was. This base lasted 3 weeks. It was very tight, very controlled, not a lot of price movement. And then once we broke out of it, bam, big expansion. This base is messy. It is very messy. And especially, take a look at this day. Wild swings. This is what happens at the end of moves rather than at the beginning of moves. You have a lot more players in the market right now. You have a lot more weak hands in the market. And these weak hands push it around. They panic when it's big sell-off, and then the pros come in and buy it, and then they say, oh my gosh, it's here, big run-ups, and then the pros sell it and dump it off. We're getting into these later stages. I think crypto is going to become a much tougher trade, and I expect to see the same thing. Down one day, up the next day. Down one day, up the next day. This kind of price action would not surprise me. I think you need to be shorter term on your crypto trades going forward if you want to be in this asset class. There is not a lot on the schedule next week, but the stuff that we do have is quite important. We've got 2 things out of the UK. This is why, again, I like the pound for this week. Claimant count change and GDP. So I'm looking at the pound early in the week for sure. We also have US CPI. All of the numbers we've had have been less inflationary. I don't want to say disinflationary because that's not what it is. Less inflationary than the market has expected. If this number comes in weaker than expected, expect that dollar to move lower. So as you can see here, Tuesday to Wednesday, this is where all the action is. There's really not a lot of action outside of those 2 days in the economic calendar. So for me, I'm liking that pound early in the week, especially if we can get some good news that's going to push that pound even higher. So let's go and take a look at these currencies. I'm going to cover cryptos, Anka's going to cover the Forex, and then we'll take a look at some individual trades. Would having more trading capital help you meet your trading goals? Maverick Currencies is the oldest US-based Forex and crypto prop firm. We fund traders just like you with 5- and 6-figure accounts where you keep 70 to 80% of profits. Click the apply link on the top right of this video to start the process. This will take you to a 4-minute video that explains the trader position, and you can read a list of FAQs that answer pretty much all the basic questions you have. After that, if you're interested, fill out an application, and then you'll watch the full-length recruiting video and schedule an interview with our recruiters. Are you our next trader? First off, let's take a look at Bitcoin. The Bitcoin daily chart is beautiful. Now this is a high base, but this is what I love about this chart. It's a rising high base. These are the strongest charts. When you have a stock or a commodity or crypto that has a big run and the base it makes is sloping higher, it's not that it can't even sell off. It can't even really base and consolidate because there is still more buyers and sellers. Even after a huge run, there's still more buyers and sellers overall. These are the strongest setups. And you can see here, we're knocking on the door for another breakout. Look, I know it's tough to take a look at these charts. As a younger trader, I would take a look at this chart and say, no way, there's no way I'm playing that. Now it's like, hey, this is what I've been waiting for. I've been waiting for a stock, a currency, a commodity to show me how strong it is like this. This makes me more excited to trade this. Remember, there is going to be more volatility. Expect wilder rides. These smooth moves that we saw over here are probably not going to happen. We're probably going to get moves like this. One day up, one day down. A couple days up, couple days down. I think you need to be a little bit shorter term if you're taking a look at any of the coins. Over here to Bitcoin Cash, okay, it's at a +3. And, you know, the way Bitcoin Cash usually moves is as one stupid day up and then one big stupid day down. And the rest of the days it's pretty mellow. I think this is a tough trade. You've got to get the timing right, because if you don't, you're going to be in dead money. If you get it right, yes, you can get a big candle, but these seem to come fairly randomly. I am not super interested in that kind of trade. Look at this. This is the best looking trade out there. We've got Ethereum, and we've got Ethereum that is just marching higher. There's 1 or 2 days where it has a little bit of volatility. This is even stronger than the Bitcoin chart. The Bitcoin chart ran up and based. Now, yes, it's been floating a little higher. This isn't slowing down. There is a continuous stream of money into this. This, to me, is still the best setup in the world of crypto. No doubt about it. And then we've got Litecoin here. You know, yes, it's had a pullback. This bounce, not all that appealing. So for me, I'm not even looking at Litecoin at the moment. Ethereum is the clear winner here as far as chart goes, but don't ignore Bitcoin. That base could lead to a pretty nice breakout to the upside, so I think you can take a look at both. Anka, can you take us through Forex?
Absolutely. And I must say that we definitely have some charts to take a look at in the currency market that looks interesting. You know, we have seen everything sort of play out. We haven't seen that much kind of movement in the currency market. Now we started to get that movement. Take a look at the dollar. It's been stuck in that range for the last 2 months, pretty much. And I've talked about it, how I want to be a buyer or seller of this. It's sideways. And here we are, broken down. We are below the 20 to 50. And we start to see things weakening here. And look at that, you know, consistent move that we had to the downside from March 6th to March 8th. So clearly there was something going on. Again, we talk about that carry trade between the dollar and the yen, and that's a powerful trade. You know, if anybody's looking for a big trade, and we talked about it in our 2024 outlook, that's going to be the big trade. Is it going to play out this year? Who knows? But whenever that policy is changing, there's a huge carry trade that needs to be unwinded. So here we are getting that movement. So I like dollar on the short side, but not as much, because When we look at other currencies, I think there's better picks out there. But for over now, I think you got to be cautious on the long side for the dollar. But look for any bear rallies if you want to be looking at the short side. Now on the yen, that's where the things are changing. Dollar yen is the one that we'll be looking at this week as well. But take a look at this one. This kind of looks like how Rob described a price action. We looked at Bitcoin, Ethereum, and let's take our emotions out. It's not about how we feel about it. It's about what we see. This is a good, strong price action. Things were pretty weak, and we got up above the 20. Now we're above the 50. I think this trade will, again, run next week as well into that Bank of Japan meeting. I think that speculation is where we see a lot of the movement. So there's not slow down sign yet. Both velocity is pretty strong, and the yen is strong on the trend score. So I like the yen here. I haven't said for months. I think I like the yen here. So looking at the consistent movements, we are seeing this dollar and the yen sort of making trend change moves. I really like this franc as it's just really staying meta, just staying weak. We can talk about correlation. Oh, we can talk about correlation with the gold. Nothing is playing out, and I like the fact that it's not paying attention to any of the other stuff. So if you're looking for a consistent run on a higher time frame, I think Swiss franc is a place to be, and we'll be taking a look at some of the charts there as well. But look at that trend score. I mean, I don't remember the last time I saw -3 on trend score on Swiss franc. Swiss franc has been the strongest currency since 2022. So I think there's definitely more pullback, more downside risk in the Swiss franc here as some of these trades unwind and money shift from one currency to the other. Now comparing that euro to the Swiss franc to the euro, okay, what do we see here? Well, I just see a bull pullback. I know we had a lot of volatility on the ECB rate statement, but what we did need to see is that are these pullbacks going to be short-lived? Meaning that we see buyers coming at these levels. At this point, I don't love the price action, and again, it's all about finding something better. I don't think this is ready yet to be bought, but something I'll be paying attention next week. But what I really like going next week is the British pound. And just like Rob said, when things consolidate for a month or 2 or 3, when they break out, big moves that happen, and they carry longer. So long base for 2 months and 2.5 months as it's breaking out. Now look at the trend score, +3. It's been a while since we have done that for the pound. So it's +3 on the pound and -3 on Swiss franc. I mean, those really stands out over here as the best and the worst currencies. Now jumping into some of the growth currencies, and here we are, CAD. And this is why I talk about, you look at something and you find something even better. So I know some traders are saying, hey, I like the dollar short. I think the CAD short looks way better. There's definitely more dovishness, or there's more risk in the Bank of Canada as far as their CPI has been turning negative. Their economy could be turning negative. Again, if one of those things plays out, we could see some of that, tune into some of the Bank of Canada comments. So, but that being aside, the price action is just telling me that this is a better short compared to the dollar. So I also like this one going to next week as well. And now talk about Aussie and Kiwi. And again, these two currencies, just realize that they're just not strong, trends that are running for days. Maybe a day or two price action, and that's it. So, and I talked about this last week, how one favors the other. Again, we are seeing the Kiwi being the strongest in the last couple of months, and that changed after the RBNZ's rate statement. So at this point, I mean, Aussie looks like it was topping up there. But if I take a look at the Kiwi in the next chart, I clearly like Kiwi short way better. Aussie's just sitting at the top of the range, but look at this one. It pulled back and just stayed sideways. It's getting a little choppy in between, but when it does break that support, and that's will be the price action I'll be looking for, especially if we get a pullback in the equity markets. That might just spill into the currency market as a risk on or risk off trade. I think in that case, I like a Kiwi on the short side as well. Not ready yet. I want to see that break of the support, but maybe go sideways for a little bit. But I want to get in when they are breaking those key support and resistance areas. But I don't think it's ready yet. So let's just put it on the side burner. But overall, good scores as we take a look at it from a +3 to a -3. That's what we want to see.
And I want to point out, just how much things have changed, because we always like to be very, very upfront to our opinion of what's going on in the market. And we don't want to be cheerleaders. We don't want to come out every week and be like, hey, it's going to be a great week for trading, everyone. Everyone, all slap high fives, because some weeks are not good weeks for trading. And we try to come on here and be like, hey, everybody, this is not a good week. Now, the reason why we say things aren't a good week is that we're getting scores. And for the last couple of weeks, we had most of the currencies trading between +1 and -1, meaning there's not a lot going on. And so we've been saying, hey, look, everybody, this is where we are. This is what the market is. We have a very famous saying at Maverick, trade the market in front of you, not the market you want it to be or think it should be. Trade the one that's in front of you. We've been having mostly everything in the middle here. Take a look at this currency board. This is beautiful. This is exactly what we want to see. There are lots of things that are breaking out and making runs, and this is a much, much better trading environment than we've seen for pretty much the entire month of February. So I'm very, very optimistic going into these next 2 weeks that this market is going to give us some really good opportunities. And this is where at Maverick, we always say, hey, look, sometimes you want to trade less. You look for less setups. Don't make trades. We're now getting into the part where we're saying, hey, no, you need to make trades. You need to want to be active here. The market is finally showing some good price action. This is where we become more active. Now, the velocity board doesn't look as good. We've got, a decent amount of things in the middle, but we still have a good chunk of things that we can look to play. So for me, it's dollar CAD, maybe Swiss franc on the short side, and pound yen and the cryptos, Bitcoin, Ethereum on the long side. It's pretty simple. That is definitely where my focus is going to be. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these charts. I'm going to start out with the Ethereum chart. The daily chart, look, I see this daily chart. I know it's very, very difficult to buy something that has gone up this much. Look, I get it. I understand. Yes, at some point, this is going to run down significantly. I get that. I understand it. So with that understanding, I just need to get timing right. It's clear that it's going up at the moment. Maybe this is the top. We don't know. But for me, this is what we want to look for. We hit 4,000 on the head. Take a look at the high up in the chart. It hit 4,000 on the dime and turned around. I don't think you can go long until that breaks. So look, unless we get a really deep pullback that looks pretty good, but if we just hang out in this area, I don't think you can buy it until it breaks 4,000. Once it breaks 4,000, I would expect there to be a pretty nice run off of that. That is the setup I'm looking for. The only other thing that I would be interested in is if we got a pullback like this. A day like this where we get one big move, and if we go in and take a look at like a 4-hour chart, we get this big move down, we start to get some candles. I wouldn't mind buying a big pullback if we see it. So maybe we get a pullback down to this 3,700 area. That for me would be something that I would be interested in. But until it breaks through 4,000, I just can't do it. I can't do it with that resistance up there. We come over here to Bitcoin, and Bitcoin looks way better. It looks way better. So early on in the week, I think you have to give Bitcoin a little bit better odds than Ethereum. But I think we kind of had the same problem. We hit that 70,000. Yes, we went to 70,184, but then we backed off. What I'd really love to see is this thing get back above 70,000, hold that level for a little bit, and then move higher. I think that would be a very good entry point as well. So these round numbers, I'm a little bit worried about these round numbers. I want to see them cleared out. Once they're cleared out, I think it is ready to go off to the races. I'm going to take a look at dollar yen Onkit. Not that it's my favorite cross. I think you're right. I think there's better things to trade. But I do think with the negative correlation out there, this will, just like this week, be the largest differential between a long and a short. I think it could be messy. I think there definitely could be better trades out there. But I think by the end of the week, I think if the dollar rallies, the yen's down. I think if the dollar falls, I think the yen is up. I think this is a decent trade on both sides, but there's no doubt that short dollar yen is a better trade. So the question is entries. Right here, right now, look how deeply oversold this is. We have RSI that's down here at 15. We need to get a bounce. We need to get a bounce, and we need to get a significant bounce for me to play this. I like the trade. I like the setup. If we get a long enough base, I can absolutely trade the base. I would love to see that. That's what we got here. We got this base. Once it broke through that base, it was a great entry here to grab that. Same thing here. If we don't get a significant bounce, I think you have to play a base. 146.5 is the low end of that, but I think you can come here. I think you can come and take a look at this level right here, 146.80, right below these, as a place where you can maybe take a first position and then maybe a second position on a break of 146.50. I like this cross. I like the trade. The question is, does it base or does it rally? I would love to see a rally early in the week. I would love to short dollar yen on a pop up to 147.50. That to me would be great. Even if it got up into this 148 where there's a whole bunch of resistance, boy, I would be licking my chops if that happened. But right here, right now, I either need more basing action and a fall or I need a rally. That's what I want to take a look at, Ankit. What do you want to take a look at?
Hey, Rob. Yeah, I think we're in the same boat here. I think with the dollar yen trade, the only thing I would highlight is that next Tuesday we have the US CPI. So that would really change things. But I'm going after things that are more consistent. Let's take a look at Swiss franc yen. Again, taking a look at the weakest versus now the strongest. I mean, on the daily chart, this thing has way less of the chop he has to clear. It already cleared that big chop area, as you can see. With that break there. Now this thing has not a whole lot of support. I mean, this can easily get towards that 164, 163. I still think that Swiss franc is probably a better trade here to the short side, just because again, this has been the strongest currency for the last 2 years, and now we're seeing things. It's kind of falling out of favor. So I really like this. I mean, take a look at it on a daily. If we obviously take a look at the 4-hour chart. Even a 4-hour chart is on just a technical basis. I think I'm seeing it much better. It's sitting at the lows of the day. I mean, we were seeing some consolidation in the dollar yen, but take a look at Swiss franc yen. So this is my first sort of a play here. The second one I like is the CAD yen. I'm just going after things that are more relatively weaker, and take a look at that too. Let's start with a daily chart on this as well. It's been stuck in this big choppy area. I just want to highlight that. So as it is doing that, it's now fallen below the parabolic SAR. It's in the negative. It's negative. Look at the moving average is turning 2. Now, if it breaks lower than 108.98, like any rally, I want to sell into these. So these are my 2 best picks: the CAD yen and the Swiss franc yen. Now, if we focus away from the yen, the other one I really like is pound Swiss franc, and it's the same sort of a chart. Take a look at that breakout we're getting. I was really focused on that breakout point of 112. You can see that it's broken out. So now I think it's easily heading towards that 114 area. Daily chart, even a 4-hour chart, I think that's the higher time frame I want to use for most of these pairs to go in that direction. And lastly, after this one, I will go with the pound CAD. Same thing, same concept. I'm going with relative versus relatively strong versus weak, and take a look at that breakout of up against that resistance. So if you're going after things that are breaking out, we want to go in that directional trade that will take us maybe for next day or 2 or 3. I think this is the area that we want to focus on. So this is my big focus. Dollar is the wild card. Like I said, next week I'll see what happened with the dollar with those inflation numbers. But I like these ones much better because I'm looking for things that are more consistent. If the inflation number comes out weak, I think dollar definitely has more reason to fall, just because we are seeing the dollar stuck in that range. It finally broke. So maybe a little bit rally in the dollar would be a great opportunity to get short. But I think it's a great opportunity where we just don't have one, but we have multiple currencies that are moving. So this is where we can diversify risk in multiple positions. I think this is the right place to be.
I will 100% agree with you that pound Swiss franc, pound CAD look like the best trades of the week. Like I said, I wanted to talk about dollar yen, but when you really say what are the best trades for the week, pound CAD, pound Swiss franc, no question about it. And then I'm going to throw Bitcoin up there if we can break and hold above that 70,000. Everyone have a great weekend, and let's go make some pips. Again, like I said, we try not to be cheerleaders every week. We try to be realistic about expectations. This week should be a really good week for trading. So look to be more active, look to find more setups, but always stick with the relative strength and weakness. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great weekend.